Hi everyone. At the request of one of my viewers, today I'm going to do just a quick screencast about storage options in Seblod. Now, there's good news and bad news about this. The bad news is that I'm not going to go into too much detail because quite honestly I don't know everything about storage options in Seblod. But the good news is that I've been able to build heaps of websites, really powerful websites with Seblod without manipulating the content storage options that much. And it's something that I really think that the default settings work really well, and it's something that you don't really need to do too much to. And if you are doing stuff to it, chances are that you're a more experienced user and you have a little bit more of an understanding about how Seblod works. So by default, if you create a content type and you go into that content type and create a new field with the lock that appears here, if that's set to lock, then when you add a new field, the default options are going to be standard, article, and then the name of your field down here. What that does is it creates in your database a new table for your content type and will store all the stuff that you store in this field in its own column. For example, my author content type from my previous series, Getting Started with Seblod, is stored here in this table, and all the fields that I created for exclusively for that author content type are seen here. Okay, so if we go back to my author content type view in Seblod, you can see those fields here. But you'll also see that I've got these article fields that from the Joomla core that I've also added to that content type. Now, these aren't seen in that field because they're from the Joomla core, they're stored in the content table. So Seblod makes the connection between what's stored in the core content table and what's stored in my custom content type table using the Joomla article ID. So you can see here that the article for me as an author is here under the ID 8, and it's also under the article ID 8 here. And that's how Seblod makes the connection between your custom fields and the Joomla core fields. So, as I mentioned before, when you create a new field with the lock set to locked, the default storage options will be standard, article, and the name of your field. Now, that's really going to be the basics. I mean, almost all of the article-related content that you create will use that. The only exception is when you need to store something in the intro text column, or if you're using a field X or a group X field and you need it to, that needs to be stored in the intro text column as well, using custom, article, and then intro text. And that happens by default really whenever you create a field X field, for example. If I just create a dummy field X field here, you'll see that it automatically goes to custom, and you should store that in the intro text column. Okay, don't ask me why that is. I'm really not sure why it has to be stored like that, but when you make it custom like this, you'll see that when it gets stored, it isn't stored in just plain text like this. It actually gets wrapped in this these colons and letter CCK and then a number. That's Seblod doing its own thing there, and I can't really tell you too much about that. Sorry, I'm not quite sure about what it does, but rest assured it does work. Now, if you're creating an a user-related content type, so this is like if you want to customize the way that users are stored in the database, it doesn't get stored as standard article, it gets stored as standard user. And that's going to happen really by default if you create a content type based on this skeleton user. So I'll just do that now quickly and show you what I'm talking about. So now that I've selected user as the skeleton for this content type, and if I go to add a new field, by default, it's going to say custom user intro text. Now that's just how Seblod stores user-related content in the database. Again, that's just something that I don't really play much with. I use the default standard options and don't really try and mess around with them too much because I've never really had a need to. So you'll see also that down the bottom here there is this other option to store content using the JSON storage protocol. Now that's really if you're passing the information from the database back through PHP or JavaScript with some custom stuff that you're doing, and that's just a way of storing content in a particular format that is friendly to then passing it through JavaScript and PHP. Again, not something that I do terribly much, and if you're familiar with how to the JSON text protocol, that's going to mean more to you than it does to me, and you're probably going to know a little bit more about what you're doing. So that's kind of the basics of it. You'll see that there's other options here for a category. Again, this is whatever appears in this drop-down list is heavily dependent on the skeleton that you selected when you created your new content type. So if you selected article, it's going to be stored here under article. Category, that's for storing stuff in the category and linking it to the category table in Joomla, the core category table. Message, user group, all the same. Then the final thing that I'll just quickly explain is this alter button. So when you click the alter button, it's going to alter a table that already exists. So let's just go back to our author content type. If I want to add a new field and click alter, so standard article, we'll say alter table, and I click alter, that is going to add a new column to the core Joomla content table. It's going to add it at the end here. Again, I'm not quite sure why you would ever want to do that. I'm not sure what the benefits of that are. I've never had to do it. I've never found a use for it, but I'm just letting you know that that's what that alter button does. But yeah, I've never really needed to use it.
So that's it for this tutorial. Sorry it's been a little vague. The good news from all of it and the take-home message really is that you shouldn't need to mess around with the storage options too much. Standard article storage is what you'll probably use most of the time. If you have any questions, and I bet you do, arising from this video, please just tweet at me at _JRMO, and I'll be happy to clarify anything that's unclear in here or give you a hand with any questions that you might have about storage. Thanks.